Cheers. Welcome. Grab your tea, because in this video we're going to be exploring Shaktipāta. Have you ever wondered why, even when something feels fine on the outside, life, work, relationships, something deep within still feels incomplete? Like there's a longing that won't go away, a whisper that says, there's more than this. If you've ever felt that subtle ache, that quiet knowing that your current experience of life doesn't reflect your full truth, then you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not wrong. And this is where I want to begin in this tantric exploration. In Tantra, there is a beautiful teaching called Shaktipāta, literally the descent of power. But it's not a power from the outside. It's the moment the divine power within you begins to stir. This is when everything shifts, everything changes. You start to wake up to something real, something you've always sensed was there, but couldn't quite name. And that moment is not the end of the path. In fact, it's actually the true beginning. So what's actually going on here? Hello, little fly. According to the non-dual tantric tradition, our experience of being limited or of feeling small, separate, or broken is not a mistake. It's a choice. Consciousness, in its vastness, chooses to become finite so it can live this human experience and ultimately experience reunion. And in doing so, it takes on three masks or impurities. Anavamala, the sense of being incomplete, the preconscious belief, I am not enough. Mayiyamala, the sense of separation, the belief that you're different from the person next to you and therefore are unsafe. And the third, karma mala, the sense of doership, the belief I must act to prove that I am worthy. These three layers shape how we see ourselves, how we see others, and ultimately how we experience life. But none of them are really true. They're misbeliefs, mistruths, temporary contractions. And Shaktipāta is what begins to dissolve these contractions. It's not an idea, it's not just inspirational belief, it's a transmission, a spark that reignites the recognition of who and what you really are. And the result? The misbelief I am not enough becomes I am enough. A return to wholeness that dissolves self-deficiency. The misbelief I am unsafe becomes I'm always safe. A return to unity and the dissolution of separative fear. And the misbelief, I am unworthy, becomes, I am grateful. A return to alignment with life. A dissolution of strained doership, freeing ourselves from our karmic repercussions. So how do you know if Shaktipāta has occurred? Well, the tradition tells us it doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, yes, it's dramatic. Sometimes it's bliss, sometimes it's vision, sometimes a flood of energy shooting up the spine. But it can also be quiet. For me, I've experienced all of the above multiple times over the years, but there wasn't this definitive moment of fireworks that broke me open and launched me into the spiritual path. No, for me it was subtle. It occurred over time, a gentle turning inward. I felt that my life was misaligned, like I was living slightly off center from my deepest knowing. And it's one of the reasons I stepped away from a career in finance working in the city of London. It's ultimately why I said no to a 2.5 year relationship, why I left my country of birth and chose a different path. And that's not to say that you have to do that, though. That was just my journey. That was just my path. In fact, in all honesty, I don't recommend it. It's quite destabilizing, because you can integrate your awakening into your life and gently refine and realign without having to turn your life completely upside down. And since then, the spiritual path for me has felt less like seeking something new, less like chasing a dragon, and more like returning home again and again. So, if you're going through something similar, here are some subtle signs for you to look out for that tells you you've had this Shaktipāta, this descent of power, that you've had this subtle shift, that things are changing for you. So you no longer feel drawn to shallow pleasures. You feel joy in acts of compassion and devotion. You're drawn to spiritual teachings, whether or not you fully understand them. Your creativity feels more alive. You find it harder to relate to people without spiritual sensitivity. Maybe you feel a sweet presence when you turn within. Even one of these might be enough and mean that the descent of power has begun to stir within you. And what follows is a journey of remembering what really, truly never left you. So what does this mean for you practically? Shaktipāta doesn't mean that you're done. In fact, it means the real work, or play as I prefer to term it, is just beginning. You'll be asked to shed layer after layer of self-image, even the good ones, to stop clinging to who you think you are, or who others think you are or believe you to be, or try to conform you to be, and instead discover who you've truly always been, your essence, nature. And that discovery isn't about leaving your life, okay? It's about seeing that you are life itself, the divine light playing the role of you, not to escape the world, not to escape your life, your family, or even your job, but to infuse all of those things with truth, with beauty, and with love. This is sādhana, the path of spiritual practice, the slow, steady removal of the sense of smallness until what's left is freedom. So if you've ever felt like you've had a deep knowing inside that whispers, this isn't all there is, this can't be all there is. If you've ever felt the world grow quiet and something sacred stir inside you, if you've ever felt the pull towards a path that makes no rational sense but feels undeniably true, you, my friend, are already in it. You're already being called. The question is, are you willing to answer that call? Shaktipāta is the moment it all begins, not when you find something new, but when you remember what you are. So take heart. The path is real. The longing you feel is sacred. And you, my friend, are not alone, I promise. If you're wanting to understand this topic better, I'm going to leave 10 multiple choice questions in the description to help digest and absorb these teachings. May they support you in understanding not just this topic better, but yourself and this journey that you're on. So, thank you for joining. There will be answers to the questions as well. You can find them, how to find them in the description. Thank you for joining. And remember, your longing is not a flaw. It's simply the map home. The divine is not above you, it's within you. You are the dreamer, awakening within the dream. Salute, my friend.